Hi there, welcome to my channel if you are new here, and if not, welcome back. My name is Mo. I'm a hairstylist and studio suite owner in Central New York, sharing all things beauty and lifestyle here on the internet. Today is a long overdue video of my journey to becoming a hairstylist and now a suite owner. I did a video during Vlogmas last year sharing a little bit about who I am, what I do, that kind of a thing, but I've never really dove into my entire story as a hairstylist. So grab a snack, grab a coffee, grab a little comfort blanket. This one's probably going to be a little longer. We'll see. Thank God for the magic of editing because I am a yapper and I will go on tangents. My story actually, from conversations I've heard over the years, meeting other stylists at like different events, different classes, and different styling opportunities that I've had, I don't have the typical hairstylist journey. I never actually planned to get into doing hair for my career. I grew up my whole life thinking that I was going to be a vet, specifically in equine veterinarian. Don't know why. I was never a horse girl as a kid. We did not have money for horseback riding lessons, let alone a horse. I had just met one, I think I was at the fair. We have like a huge state fair. I met a woman in like, it was either one of the animal barns or like the 4-H building or something like that. And she was a veterinarian for horses. Yeah, we talked for a little bit and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. That was always my dream from a very young age. My dream was to go to Cornell University and become an equine veterinarian. As I got older, it shifted from that because it didn't make sense to me to just, oh, I just want to be a vet. I did kind of keep it on the back burner as an option, but as I got older, I kind of steered away from that because again, it didn't really make sense for my life. I was not a horse girl. I didn't really know much about horses. Why did I want to be a horse vet? Fast forward as we got through like middle school. Middle school is kind of a turning point for me where I was like, I'm not vibing well with science classes. This is all kind of boring to me. I don't think I want to be a vet. I'm more interested in journalism or just writing or just doing something more creative. So I had started writing for the school newspaper in middle school and was on yearbook committee and did that kind of stuff. That's where I kind of fell in love with like the idea of some kind of creator position, whether it was working at a magazine, being like a journalist, or running a blog, that kind of a journey. I would say culturally at the time, teen magazines were still very in. Like I lived, breathed, and died by my 17 magazine and my Glamour and Cosmetology. At the same time, the internet was becoming more and more of a thing. Online presence was becoming more of a thing. Like the blogging format was becoming much more of a thing. Like there was Wattpad, MySpace was huge at the time. So like you could have like a blog on your MySpace. As I got to like later middle school, early junior high, probably around like 8th grade was when like the Tumblr era really took over. Also before that, like middle school, we had like LiveJournal, all these platforms. Being a blogger wasn't a thing yet, but you could at least like do your own thing and at least have sample work to send to big publications to potentially get a job. So I was kind of leading that route and still wasn't really sure. I knew if I went to school for journalism, I definitely wanted to do something more like music, entertainment, pop culture, fashion, that realm. I was not interested in like the news and I was not interested in like political writing. That was where my journey began of I might want to go this direction. Fast forward to like 8th, 9th grade. This is where I finally had to sit down and have the talk with my parents of like, hey guys, so I know I've told you since I was about 4 years old that I was going to be a veterinarian, but I don't think that's for me anymore. And I actually think I want to get into journalism, PR, or A&R. They were just like, okay, well, you know, do your research, see if you can find schools. We don't know what that means, but have at it. And I should preface this too with like my dad was a police officer my whole life and my mom worked at 911 until I was in 3rd grade. She still was working there, but that's when she went to law school and I got her license and was working in the legal world from the time I was like 12 years old or so. Neither of them had creative jobs. My mom did have at one point in time a scholarship offer for art school, but she could not go. That is another story for another time. But neither of them had creative career paths at any point in time. So even me just saying I want to be a journalist was kind of out there. In my extracurriculars at school, I had a lot of elective classes that I could take because I had enough regular class credits. I was taking a lot of digital art, art, writing, and fashion design and merchandising classes while I was in school. And I really thought that was the career path I was gonna go. I loved the movie The Devil Wears Prada with Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway. I really thought that's gonna be me. I'm gonna move to New York City and I'm gonna be like grinding and hustling and be treated like shit for a couple of years just to move up and become the girl, you know, like Anna Wintour who. Needless to say, that did not happen. In 10th grade, I was in my English class and our English teacher was like, okay, so next class we have a assembly we're gonna go to and then we'll come back and have class. So I'm not thinking anything of it, don't even know what this is, but I was like, cool, you know, we get to get out of class for a little bit, that's fun. So we go to this assembly and it was for the trade school program that partners with our school. They offer culinary, they offer like a pre-nursing program, early childhood development, and cosmetology and mechanics, and then like a couple other odds and ends classes. I was interested in the cosmetology program when they started talking about it, and I was just like, huh, that's interesting. And I had filled out a form that I was interested in learning more about it. I believe they gave it to your guidance counselor, and then your guidance counselor was gonna schedule everything. Because basically the way it worked was you'd have to fill out a form to express interest. Your guidance counselor would sign off on that. Then you would meet with them. They would set up an observation day where you would go to the school and then watch one of the classes for the program you're interested in. And then from there, you would decide if you wanted to move forward with applying. It wasn't really an application process, but with applying, or if you were just no longer interested. And then if you were interested and you wanted to continue, you had to get, I believe it was like 2 teacher recommendations and a parent to sign off on it, and your guidance counselor had to sign off on it. So I did my observation day. Needless to say, I was like, yes, this is what I need to be doing. At the time, how I was thinking was, I've had a job since I could get working papers at 15 or 16. As soon as I could get a job, I had a job, and I had consistently had a job since getting my working papers. I saw it this way. I knew I was going to college. I was pretty positive that if I didn't go away for school, I would be living at home, but I would still have to work. Even if I went away, I would have a job. If I ever want money for like spending money or to just do anything, I needed to work for it. I figured I could keep making what I was making at the time. I believe it was like $7.25, $7.50 an hour, working part-time in retail, or I could do this program, get my cosmetology license, and then essentially double what I would be making part-time at the bare minimum, double how much money I could make working part-time while I was in school. So it was like a win-win for me. You're probably thinking too, you're like, why, if you had no interest in being a hairstylist at this point, what made you interested? At the time, I was very into hair and makeup. I was, again, still doing like the blogging situation. I've always watched YouTube and loved the beauty lifestyle girls on YouTube. And actually, believe it or not, I tried to have a channel in high school and was so embarrassed by it and didn't want anyone to find it. So I did have a few random videos on like tutorials, prank videos, sketch videos, stuff like that. I don't know. I did have an interest in like hair and makeup and thought it would be cool to learn how to do those things correctly, but I never really saw it as like my end goal for myself. You would think, oh cool, like, you know, you found this program, that's great, that's awesome, you were able to go, great. It was a little bit of a hiccup trying to get into the program for me. As I said, my course load was always a little more accelerated. I had a lot of credits to graduate, and if I really wanted to, I could graduate high school early. And at the time, I was still very in limbo on what my future was looking like and what my goals were. So I was planning on just maintaining my path that I was going and graduating at the same time with all my friends. So once I decided that, I was able to apply for the vocational program because it was a 2-year program. So your junior year and your senior year, you would do regular school for half the day and then trade school for half the day. So I did express interest in it. I had a meeting with my guidance counselor who tried to talk me out of the program actually. Once I got him on board and to sign off on what he needed to sign off on, it was convincing my parents. And I actually did make a presentation for them explaining what I just said to you now about how I could actually make more money while I'm a student in college if I go this path rather than graduating early, being undecided for a year, and then being in school for an extra year. Needless to say, I was able to convince them, and honestly, it was the best decision I ever made for myself. Going into my first year of cosmetology school, I was very nervous because one, I didn't know who was going to be in my class. The way our vocational program worked, it was my school and about probably like 6 to 7 other schools in the area that would go to this location. I didn't know who from my school was going to be there. I didn't know there was anyone I was going to know in my class. Like, that was very nerve-wracking. I'm someone who, in new situations, I'm very awkward. I get very shy, but once I'm comfortable, I can make friends pretty easily. I was really happy. One of my good friends was in the program and we got put in the same class, and that made it so much easier the first week of class. Also, I wasn't sure what to expect as far as the curriculum. Again, no experience with any of this. I didn't know what exactly cosmetology school was going to be about. The first few weeks of classes were just like kind of the basics. It was a lot of reading. The first week of class was pretty like not fun, and then it got really fun. The teacher was super cool. We had a bigger classroom, so initially we also had a really large class, and we had a teaching assistant who was like super cool. She was like this, like, I don't know, you could tell she was like a rock and roll lady back in the day. She just had a little spice to her and had no time for stupidity. If you stayed on good terms with her, you were set. And then our main teacher was a hairstylist. At that point in time, she had had a few surgeries. It's very common to get carpal tunnel when you're in this industry, and sometimes after you've had a few surgeries, you just really shouldn't be doing hair anymore, unfortunately. She had done hair for like 30 years or so, and then got into teaching and wasn't taking clients really anymore. They both ended up being very crucial to even how I look at my career today. I did learn a lot, but I also feel like a lot of people will say this with any, especially a vocational school cosmetology program, but I really feel like I didn't learn a lot there. Like, I did, but I did. The way cosmetology school worked through a vocational program was essentially every day that you were in class, you would be marked for your attendance there, you would learn whatever curriculum there was for the day, and the goal was to have your hours to take your boards by the end of the program. So in New York State, we actually have really low hours. Thankfully, it's 1,000 hours before you're able to take your state boards. Between junior and senior year, you get there. So basically the program is set up so that you get all the hours you need to qualify to take your state boards, information you will need for the written portion of the test, as well as the technical portion of the test. So we didn't learn a lot of like trendy haircuts. We didn't learn a ton of business strategy or business marketing or anything like that. It was pretty straightforward. Like, read the book, learn the practical part that goes with the part we just read, and then do it on a mannequin, rinse, repeat. Overall, I would say my experience in cosmetology school was fine. Considering that I didn't have to pay for the program, it was definitely worth it for me because I wouldn't be here if I had had to pay for cosmetology school. I always recommend to people, if your school does offer a program, it's always worth the conversation and to look into. Go do an observation day, and then if you decide you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But it's good to know your options, especially if college isn't at the forefront of your brain right now, or if you know you're going to be undecided as soon as you get into like a higher education. So I graduated from my program in 2013, and then obviously graduated from high school. And at that time, I had already been early accepted into my college program, and then obviously now I was able to take my state boards. We had a family trip like right after graduation, so I had my ceremony. I was like, okay, we'll take vacation, I'll come back, I'll study for my written test and schedule it, and then we'll go from there. So I did do all of that, and then I got my temporary license. Your temporary license essentially means that you are able to, like, if I wanted to go be like a receptionist or assist somebody or be like a towel or shampoo girl or do something like that, I could go do that. But I was not allowed to take clients in a chair of my own. So I got my temporary license and was like, okay, I'm feeling good. And then I was looking at the schedule for the practical dates because they only offer them on specific dates at a specific location. So I got really scared to take my state boards for some reason, and I put it off for about 6 months before I finally took it. And then July of 2014 is when I finally took the leap to take my state boards, and I passed the first time, no issues. I think the most nerve-wracking part of the state boards is just that everything is very, very, very specific, down to how you pack for it, how each section is done, how you sanitize the area, how you unpack when you get there, how you repack, and like every little thing is important from the time you walk through those doors till the time you leave. And I was so scared that if I did something wrong, I was never going to be able to get my license, and and this was the last hurdle in the way to starting this next chapter of my life. I was so happy when I logged in and saw that little passed with the green check. I actually cried when my license finally came in the mail. I sent a picture to my mom and my dad and was like, I did it, and they both were just like, yeah, we knew you could do it, like, great. So then, now that this first hurdle was out of the way, I had to take the next hurdle, which was finding a job as a hairstylist. So at the time that I got licensed, I was in college and I was finished with my freshman year. I had been working retail at a clothing store in our local mall. Call it divine timing, call it a sign from God, call it something, but our store had been in like rough shape for a few months. And basically at the time I was working retail and I was at my end with the position. I wasn't fully ready to leave because I knew the store was about to go under anyway. So I was like, ooh, let me ride this out for as long as possible, keep making what I'm making here, and then also finally start doing hair. I applied to the only places that I knew as a 19-year-old to apply to, which were Regis, Mastercuts, Smart Style, Ulta, Supercuts, and the salon at JCPenney. I was not confident yet in my skill set to try to work at a private salon, so I didn't know where else to start but there, and that's how I started. So initially when I began working at Smart Style, I would work there 2 days a week and I would work at my retail job 2 days a week. And the goal was to dwindle down those days and build up more days as I got more busy working behind the chair and as I felt more confident. So the way Smart Style worked, you could either take walk-in appointments or people could book ahead for an appointment with you. Obviously I had 0 clients besides a couple of friends and family members, so I figured walk-ins was going to be the easiest way to work on my skills and build a clientele. Let me tell you, my experience working at Smart Style was what I needed at that point in time. However, I don't believe it benefited my career in any way. I quickly realized what I did and didn't like about doing hair. Honestly, I wish I had listened to some of the things I didn't like a lot sooner. It would have saved me a lot of heartache and stress, but you live and you learn. My experience there was not the best. I had everything happen to me from being verbally accosted by a customer who decided to be a walk-in blowout and then give me a hard time about wearing a cape, which is the law in New York State. You have to wear a cape when you're receiving hair services. I had a young teen decide to take my clipper guard off my clippers in the middle of me doing his hair. This is why I don't double book. I was double booked at the time. I was doing a color and then this cut came in. So while my color was toning at the sink, I was doing a cut in between and I had to go check on her toner. So I set my clippers down on the drawers and this kid took them, was messing around with them, and I went back to cut, didn't even notice the guard wasn't on anymore, and he just was a skin fade. I won't even call it a skin fade. He just had a bald spot on the side of his head. Anything and everything you could think that is like the worst thing that could have happened to you as a stylist there, but for melting somebody's hair off, I experienced a lot of that working there. I worked there for about 2 years and then I had secretly been applying to different places behind the scenes because I needed to get out of there. I didn't like the way that they managed things. I have always been a quality over quantity person. If I need to have somebody in my chair for 5 hours, I need somebody in my chair for 5 hours. I could not be rushed to do a full head of highlights, a haircut, a blow dry, and a style in an hour. It's never been how I work and it was the worst. I ended up having an interview at the salon at Ulta Beauty and I ended up accepting a position there as a design artist. So that is like a lowest tier hairstylist position. And honestly, working at Ulta was super cool for a number of reasons. They did have a lot of continuing education, which was cool. They would have representatives from different brands come in and talk to us, which was cool. And we could try out products. Within our deal, we were a Redken salon, so our color lines and primary shampoo, conditioner, treatments, all that stuff was Redken. But we would have random pop-ups throughout the year, or we would have a pop-up styling event with one of the other hair brands that they carried there. And there was some opportunity for growth, but honestly, and I'm hoping they fixed it since I left there, but the biggest deterrent of working there and why I would tell people not to work there was that basically the only way you could get a promotion or a pay increase outside of the mandatory annual hourly wage increase was you had to level jump. Basically, had zero control over that. You essentially had to hit all these benchmarks to get approved to get moved to the next level, and then that's how you would get essentially like a promotion. You couldn't just apply for a promotion. This is the only way you could move up at all with the company. It was very discouraging, especially working at a store where we didn't have a busy salon and we had 4 stylists. I think we had an 8-person salon plus an esthetician pod, and we had 2 estheticians. One of them was like never booked with anything. And then we had 4 stylists. Only 1 stylist was ever like booked and busy. And a lot of us got the clients that she couldn't take anymore because she worked a very limited schedule. So that's why she was booked and busy. She worked 2 days a week for like 4 hours. So my time at Ulta was not as short-lived as it should have been, but I was there for about 4 years. And again, I learned a lot. There was some good opportunities there, but on the flip side, it was very discouraging. And that was when I had my I'm done with corporate salon structure. There's aspects of a corporate salon that I do like, that I think a lot of private salons fail at, but then there are other aspects of a corporate salon that just don't mesh well if you are in this industry to make an impact on people. If you're in this industry to build actual connection with your clients and a brand and a name for yourself, I don't think that the corporate salon route was the best for that. I left there in 2018, so it's been, 6 years since I quit my job at Ulta, and I would hope it's different now, but at the time, like, it just wasn't working for me anymore, and I decided to take a very large leap and go on my own and booth rent. I also learned a lot that first year in booth renting, let me tell you. My first year booth renting, I have a weird habit of doing this, and I think I finally hit a groove where I'm good on sorting out my location. I took a leap from working at Ulta on one side of town to working at a private salon on the complete opposite side of town. So while I was able to maintain some of my clientele, a lot of them did not follow me just because it was like a 30-minute drive across town, which is so funny now because now I have like a few clients who don't even live in the area anymore and will schedule their hair appointments around when they're visiting family. So, perspective. I didn't fully understand yet what booth renting entailed. I had learned a lot in that first year, a lot of good things, a lot of not so good things, and then the pandemic hit, and this was such a pivotal turning point in my renting experience. It was kind of a perfect out for me because my contract actually was about to expire anyway, and I had no intention of re-signing just due to a few little experience things, and I just didn't mesh well, honestly, when it comes down to it. It was a very like boho crunchy salon, and I am not that. Like, it was like the cool girl crunchy though, like where they had like the fake cowskin rugs and like the antlers on the wall and like that vibe, like that like almost coastal western vibe, and that's not me if you really haven't noticed. I like classic melded with like a little bit of edginess. Like, I'm not the earthy granola crunchy girl. Like, so I always felt weird there because, I come in with my like docs and my like baseball hats and my, I don't know, I would just come in like not feeling like I looked like I should work there. And then just the location was kind of not great because there was, I kid you not, just where we were, there was a salon directly next door to us, 2 doors down from us, across the street, and then like 3 doors. So it's like, it just was not ideal for what I was looking for at the time. Pandemic hit, and that was like a little bit traumatizing, but thankfully I was in a situation where being out of work was not going to affect me. I had moved back home after a breakup, and it was like the best case scenario. So mentally it was a lot, but honestly in hindsight it was the best case scenario for everything that was going on. And then COVID is really where I kind of like sat down and thought, what do I want out of my career? That this is also the time when I really got into like manifesting and very into goal setting and planning and all this kind of stuff. I did a lot of learning, and not just technical skills, but business skills. And I narrowed it down to like, I'll say like 4 major things. I wanted to get back into doing makeup again. I was doing makeup appointments while I was at Ulta and loved it, but I wasn't doing as many once I left there. So I wanted to get back into doing makeup. I wanted to finally take an extension certification course and learn how to do hair extensions. I wanted to figure out how to do more photo shoots and creative shoots, whether it was editorial photo shoots, commercial photo shoots, commercial video shoots, any kind of video where work. I could do hair for larger projects. And then I also wanted to really finally specialize in a color service. I always have gravitated towards more lived-in color and stuff, but like I was still doing like a ton of vivids, a ton of this, a ton of that, whatever. I was still all over the board. So I wanted to really like narrow down my salon services. And then I really wanted to do New York Fashion Week. Also during COVID is when I was on the hunt for a new salon space, and I actually had an interview probably like day 4 into when salons closed down here in New York State. I had a phone interview with the last salon I was working at prior to now. We talked about a lot of things during this call, and we just kind of like did a vibe check on each other. And funny enough, I had actually interviewed with them prior to going to my first booth rental salon. Just something at the time was like, just didn't feel like it was gonna work yet. Actually, we had talked about it on our call that like she said that I seemed experienced, but still like I needed a little more, if that made sense. And we were on the same page with that, and everything went well with this call. She's like, well, you know, I'd love to have you join us. At the moment, I can't really guarantee anything as far as the timeline for you to start because we're closed and I don't know when we're opening again, as you don't either. So yeah, we'll just stay in touch. And we did. And then when the restrictions for salons were lifted, I began my journey there. When I started this next salon chapter of my career, I was actually like accomplishing a lot of the stuff that I had set out to do and put intention towards during the pandemic, which was amazing. So I had started there in the summer of 2020, and within 6 months of being there, I did sign up for my extension certification course, and I went down to New York City while the city was still pretty much all shut down and took my certification course. And that was such a pivotal moment for my career, and I didn't even realize it at the time. Don't regret that decision at all, and it was just so fun to like do my own thing for a few days and take a long weekend. That was in like February. By the fall of 2021, I had booked my first commercial gig as a hairstylist on a commercial shoot, which was so cool. A makeup artist who I had been following online for a long time had referred me, and I was so surprised because we had never worked together, and it was really cool. She had referred me to come work with them, and they had reached out, and I said yes and went and did it, and it was such a cool experience. I worked with them a few more times over the next year, and that was like super cool. By September of 2021, it was the first season that they were hosting New York Fashion Week shows again, and I was reached out to by a brand educator who I had taken classes with before, who was a team lead for one of the Fashion Week company. I can make a whole separate video about New York Fashion Week if you want, so if that sounds interesting, give this video a thumbs up because I go on a whole separate tangent about that. But basically, she reached out to me, I said I was interested, and then signed up. New York Fashion Week was another surreal moment that I got to check off my list. This is where I really fell back in love with doing more avant-garde, creative hairstyling that wasn't just regular salon work. I hadn't done something like that in a while. I was doing photo shoots here and there, but I hadn't done anything like super creative in a long time, and just getting the opportunity to work New York Fashion Week was such a dream of mine. Especially, I had such a huge passion for the fashion world when I was in, you know, junior high and high school, and it was so surreal. I remember being in the city. I got back to my hotel room after my first run of shows. I got back to my room. I had grabbed dinner on the way. I like unloaded all my stuff, and I had the happiest sob of my life. Like, it was just so surreal and a dream come true. I would love to go back down and do it again. I did do it twice that year. I did the fall shows and then I went back again in the spring. It's just a lot. It's a lot, and I don't live in the city, so it's like you're living in a hotel room for a week. It's too much. Yeah, I would love to do it again now that I've had some time away from it, but it's a lot. Like, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. So I did accomplish a lot of things during this time at the salon, and I don't even want to give the salon credit for it because I did all these things on my own. Like, I just finally was in a place where I was building my confidence behind the chair, so it was allowing me to build my confidence in other aspects of my career. This is also the first full year I went really in on social media, and it impacted my career so positively. Yeah, I feel like I grew mentally and emotionally as a stylist a lot. My skills improved a lot, and overall it was just like a really positive experience for me from a career standpoint. I did hit a point where I I felt like I was hitting all these accomplishments and achievements. But again, as I was doing it on my own and not with the support of my salon, I started to think about things a little differently and what the next chapter of my life would look like. And that's when I started feeling out if I wanted to go to another salon and booth rent or if I wanted to go do something on my own. And I got the pull to open my own salon suite. And that brings us to now where I am my own business owner, and it's been so rewarding and so fun, but stressful, but in the best way. All I could say is if you have considered cosmetology school and it's really calling to you, take the leap and do it. The worst thing that happens is you go, you maybe waste a little money on school, but you have your license and then you have it, so it could be worth it. You never know where it'll take you. The best part about this industry is you can make of it what you would like to. If you hate makeup, you don't have to do makeup. If you don't like extensions, you don't have to do extensions. If cutting is where you excel, you can be a cut-only stylist and make bank. Don't let the fear hold you back from taking the leap and trying to make your first steps in your path in this industry. So yeah, sorry if that was like a little jumbled at the end. My camera's dying, so I wanted to wrap this video up before I take a little pause and continue filming for the day. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about me and my journey and my story as a stylist. If you have any questions for me, definitely leave them below, and maybe I'll do a Q&A video in a couple weeks, depending on how many questions there are for me down there. I hope it wasn't too boring. Was there anything that surprised you about this journey? Let's chat. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.